Here we are. Back again.
Here we are. CJ in his new spot in DC.
There it is.
Yep.
CJ, full screen yourself for a sec.
Sorry?
Full screen yourself for a sec. Get us out of there. There it is. Okay, let's look. All right, everything seems to be unpacked.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Where's my spot? Is my bedroom unpacked there yet? Mike asked if I was moving in with you.
Right, yeah. I did listen to the last pod because I wanted to hear how Mike's Japan trip was.
Oh, wow. That's
nice.
the reason everyone listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
And I got to clear some space out for you. Spike.
Okay.
So working on that. That's next. Have you started packing your house up now, Spike?
So our house actually just went under contract yesterday here. So we found a buyer. Thanks, TJ.
Nice.
And not CJ, but TJ. But we're moving May 1. So I'm going to start in the next week, I guess. But then also I hired packers.
Packers?
Yeah, packers and movers.
Not only movers, but packers.
So let me
the
just
same company?
Yeah. So let me explain this to you. It's just like from my perspective, I never had this before. But when I lived in Chicago and I went back to work at YSP, like it was the first time I ever had like a moving allowance. And they were like, here's what you can spend. Now you don't get this money, but here's what you can spend. So it was like $10,000 or something. So, and I had 1-bedroom apartment. So I booked the movers and they were like, we can pack you too. And I was like, okay. Dude, when you watch professional packers pack your house, like it would take me 3.5 weeks to pack this house. They will come in and do it in 6 hours. It is like, I would just say it is so worth, once you get to a place where you have like a house and there's this much stuff, I think it's an extra, I have a 4-bedroom house. It'll be $1,500. And I know that it's not like nothing, but it's also, you know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day,
a few grand, and especially if you get like a stipend from work, then definitely be worth it.
So ever since then, I was like, I'm never moving myself again. I'm never packing myself again.
Wow.
I'll pack as much as I can that I'm worried about, but then the other stuff, like the kitchen, I'll let them fucking do the kitchen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess that makes sense. You could pack the stuff that you would be concerned.
Yeah. Like I'll pack my podcast stuff or what, but they're also very good at that stuff too. So anyway, moving talk.
Let them pack during the show.
I could do that.
That could be just in the background.
Yeah, I could do that.
You could pack.
Yeah, we can work on that. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS and brought to you by BodyBio. Get 20% off any BodyBio order with promo code Norman at BodyBio.com. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at BigBarker.com/Ricky. Kornblau Kornblau, the official law firm of The Process and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, Sixers lose, Raptors win. Sixers sign Oshae Brissett. Doesn't sound like a real player. Gonna have to get Mike's thought on that. We will come up with some, we will have some tanking updates. And also Sixers being, what's the word I'm looking for? Investigated, along with some other teams, about the player participation policy. And Daryl says he uses AI to help make decisions. Kinetic skateboarding. It's almost spring. You can feel it coming. Up here in the Northeast, right? We're getting that warm weather. We're going to have a couple of 70s days, I think, in this coming week. So you need new gear. You need new gear. Now, if you're a skateboarder, of course, Kinetic is the place that you go. But even if you're not, you can be a poser like me. Go to Kinetic, find some new kicks, stuff that you're not going to see anywhere else, New Balances, Vans, Nikes, literally, that you're not going to see anywhere else. Maybe a couple new tees, maybe a hoodie for the spring. Come on. Go to kineticskateboarding.com and use code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. And so I've mentioned we are moving, and my wife works in an animal shelter up here in North Jersey called St. Hubert's. And she asked me, before we left, her final thing is this thing where people are sleeping at the shelter in a kennel with a dog, spending 24 hours in there to raise money. So I am doing this. I'm spending 24 hours in a kennel at St. Hubert's with a dog to raise money for St. Hubert's. Would love for you to donate. St. Hubert's is where we got Scotchy from, and is a great place and has been a great place for my wife to work for the last few years. But they do great work and care for the animals quite a bit. I will go live a few times from the kennel, but I'm literally spending 24 hours in the kennel. So we will put the link in the description to the pod, or you can just go to my Twitter page. It's right there at the top. Would love your donations, and she is counting on me to raise more money than anybody. So a lot of pressure from my wife. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is celebrating today, Rights to Ricky Sanchez Day. As everyone knows, that is one Mike Levin.
Hello.
So on this day, thank you to the Daily Roast on Twitter, who on this day reminded us, March 15th, 2012, the 76ers traded the rights to Ricky Sanchez to the Memphis Grizzlies for one Sam Young, who I'm sure Mike was in on at the time.
Of course. 6'6" wing with a lot of bounce, a little physicality coming out of Pitt. You think I wouldn't be into Sam Young? I'm still into Sam Young.
I'm sure. That's what I said. So 13 years ago, the Sixers traded the rights to Ricky Sanchez to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Amazing.
Well,
and here we are.
And here we are.
For whatever reason, here we
yes.
are.
And things have changed so much in the 11 and a half years that we've been doing this podcast. Then I was, now when I see the starting lineup, it really is just sort of, I think there is some muscle memory to it, to like, who the fuck are these guys? And I think last night's loss to the Pacers, I actually started getting in that mode where, you asked me about Alex Reese, and there were a few plays in there where I started to kind of see it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in there. I'm there. We're back.
Oh yeah, man.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's very fun. I watched it late, and so knowing that they lost
is a good feeling. And
it's such a lovely thing to just be like, now I know that they lost.
Yep.
I can watch the game and be like, I hope this shot goes in. I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that nice little play. Oh, it didn't finish? That's fine.
Doesn't matter.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's I really look. Obviously, there's nothing better than when your team is succeeding, surprising, winning, going on a run, feeling invincible. That's the best.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've plateaued as hard and as frustratingly as the Sixers have for the last 8 years, this is just such a welcome reprieve.
It's just a nice break.
I just really encourage everyone to just enjoy the exhale and just the relaxation of absolutely no stakes whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you can gear up for the future, whether that's next year or whatever. I'm not hoping for losses next year. This is best case scenario, 1 year break. Everybody regroup, reset, recalibrate yourself, and enjoy a little Alex Reese moments of belief. Because I am.
Yeah. So here, this is what we're leading with, and what we thought was going to be the best year of the process.
That's right.
Here's what I saw about Alex Reese that I like.
Good.
He's not a particularly good athlete, but he made a couple of plays defensively where he ended up in the right spot. He had that, I don't jump very high, I don't move very fast, but I also know where to be kind of stuff. And the only thing I don't like about him is that I can't tell if it's this Abreu thing where he's moving very slowly, but it just looks.
Now you brought it up.
Well, I can't tell if he just looks like he's moving very slowly and doesn't care, or if that is, or if actually he doesn't, because he does seem like very low on the aggression meter, even in setting screens and the way he moves, all that. But there are a couple. He had one block, Alex Reese, and
the best, like the way you look at him would be a 4/small ball 5 that can protect the rim a little bit and hit threes. Like that's the thing you look at. And I don't know. I'm willing to watch the rest of the year and see what he's got.
There you go. And you got to feel good for Jeff Doughton, who really threatened. If you watch this game live, I'm sure you want to fucking strangle him. Mm-hmm. Just having the heater of all heaters, could not miss. Almost, there's one spot in the third where he went a little cold or whatever, but just could not fucking miss, taking shots that he shouldn't be taking, right? Like dribbling into the lane, fadeaway jumpers, whatever, everything going in. But nice for Jeff Doughton to, score a bunch of points in a Sixers loss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As far like he's had a couple good games in a row. And he's trying to stick in the NBA.
Yes.
And maybe won't be here, but like some other team giving him like a standard deal next year. Little last guy on the roster makes it like this. Making an impression it's cool to see. I'm happy for him. He's got that nice little mid range. Mm-hmm. He's got a little shake to his game. He can get to his spots. Just a really, really slow release on three and not that impactful on defense, which is why he's not one of my guys that I'm thrilled with for like we should hold on to him. But as a sort of standard, coaches like him, set the stage sort of combo guard. I'm happy for a guy like this that has a couple good moments. This is what it's all about, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to become a guy that says this is what it's all about more often. That's what I'm working on.
That's going to be your thing?
Yeah, I'm working on it. This is what it's all about.
How about that dunk from a Dembona?
Oh, sick.
That was what it was all about.
Oh, that is what it's all about. I talked about it last podcast where he did the sort of like fake handoff Draymond type of thing on the DHO, and then drives left, finishes hard with a left. Like that's a nice put down. He's done it a couple times. He's just got a nice little baby hook, gets to his spots, can elevate. Couple nice blocks. Another, professional game, 6 of 7 from the line, which I like to see. Get hustles, impact on the offensive glass. Long. That's what it's all about, I think. He did good. Yabusele sets a career high in rebounds, 15.
I didn't even notice that. I didn't even notice he had 15 rebounds. I feel kind of bad that he has to play.
I do, yeah. Yeah.
Because he looks gassed. Him and Oubre. I understand though, they still have, they're the guys that have to play or whatever, like at this point, but I kind of feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Because they're both gassed and they both have contracts next year,
Yeah. Well, Oubre gets the night off, which is good. The entire Sixers starting lineup. I have it in my notes as 9 of the 10 of the Sixers' 10 rotation players were out last night. Yabusele was the only rotation player who played.
And they only dressed 8 yesterday because Quentin Grimes has an illness.
Good.
So, yep.
Good.
Well, it's not good that he has an illness.
Careful. You can't be too careful about that stuff.
Yeah.
You cannot be too careful.
So,
Quentin Grimes is going to be sick for Selection Sunday because he played against the Pacers? Ridiculous. Rest up, my guy.
Let me ask you this. We've been right about a lot of things. Been wrong probably about more. Have we ever been more wrong? I mean, collectively. Maybe I have been more wrong or you have been more wrong. Mm-hmm. But the two of us, have we ever been more wrong about somebody than we were about Ricky Council, who is just doesn't seem to have any interest in playing basketball the way that he should be playing basketball, and has B-Ball Paul had an outsized view of what he was capable of, but really did have more skills than you would think, I guess. Like there was this weird thing where he thought he could dribble like fucking Magic Johnson or something. But as it turned out, he was a little bit better at it than you would think he was. Ricky Council thinks the same thing, but is actually not good at any of those things. And I find him to be the only current Sixer that I have trouble watching. I kind of feel bad. Yeah.
I don't think anyone collectively was like Ricky Council is the savior of this franchise. I think it was like we needed an athletic role player that could sort of make plays on the offensive glass, get out in transition. Last year they were just so at a talent deficit athletically, to the Knicks especially. But I don't know that anyone was looking at Ricky and being like, this undrafted guy is...
But we thought he might, like, he's a tough watch.
He's a tough watch sometimes. I think he's the perfect guy to be playing on this team currently. I mean, I think he's wing Tony Roden. This is what we're watching.
Yeah.
And he had a career high 3 blocks last night, Spike. I don't see you celebrating that. That is actually what it's all about.
I was not.
And he gets, he still does his thing. He has a fun little handle. The thing about Paul, it's just tough at different positions because like Paul is a good defender and is the kind of switchable 5 that you can like hold on with, whereas Ricky is like not good enough with the ball in his hands to be a real primary option, except for a couple times when he's hitting shots. And even though he's become a more willing 3-point shooter as the season has stopped mattering in any feasible way, he's still just not like good at it.
No.
So it's like, really, what else? There's a lot of record scratch to his game. I think this is with a guy this athletic and has some like weird natural gifts. I'm glad they're giving him a chance, and I think somebody else next year will probably give him another shot to hang on and be like, okay, you're like elite athletic with some weird on-ball skills. Like maybe you can be normal a little bit. And I think they'll probably find that he can't. But I'm not upset about it. I don't think I was surprised that you were saying Ricky is the thing that we collectively were the most wrong about.
Well, I would say we disagree on a lot of things. Like I never thought Jonah Bolden was good. You did. Like I was never in on Christian Wood. We're usually in on different players, And I thought we were right about Paul Reed, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
I still thought he was.
I still think we are
the best backup center that he ever had, that Embiid ever had.
Yeah.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by BodyBio. We care about you, your person,
we do.
your health. So does BodyBio. BodyBio has been in this for a long time. They're a South Jersey company, which I now feel kinship to because I'm going to be a South Jersey guy. And we've talked about a lot of their products. We've talked about Elite. We've talked about butyrate. We talked about liposomal C. But the product that put them on the map, the one that they're both known for, PC, which stands for, as Mike knows, phospholipid complex. Yes. This is going to make me laugh every time. Mm-hmm. Phospholipid complex. So we live in a world full of, nature's great. There's a lot of other shit out there that is not good for you, like microplastics and pesticides and mold, stuff that you can't see. You can do the best job in the world at avoiding this stuff, right? Buying organic produce and making sure, but it's everywhere. So you can't avoid it. And what it does is it makes it harder on your cells to let the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. And your cells are your defense mechanism for that. So what PC does is it keeps your cells strong, keeps your cells healthy. Mike had to deal with a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago, the wildfires, all those toxins that are in the fucking air. So what PC does is it helps you control the things that you can't control, right? The stuff that you can't do anything about, to keep your cells resilient, to keep it letting in the good stuff and keeping out the bad stuff. With promo code Norman, you go to bodybio.com and you can get 20% off anything at any time. So you get 20% off PC, but you can get 20% off Elite. You get 20% off sodium butyrate. You get 20% off liposomal, whatever you want. Learn about all the products there. We love BodyBio because BodyBio cares about you, cares about us. Again, bodybio.com, promo code Norman. Anything else? Oshae Brissett. Didn't find him to be particularly impressive last night. Hood Shafino, but anything on Oshae Brissett? I don't know anything. I've never heard of him.
Really? Well, he's been in the league for a little while. Played for the Celtics, played for the Raptors, came out of Syracuse. Big, sturdy wing. Normally known more as like a guy who can get some rebounds, get in there. And he was hitting some shots last night. Pretty nice. He literally landed I saw in the post game quotes that he gets a call. He was doing, I forget what he was doing. He was doing like his regular workouts, and he got a call saying from his agent saying like, you're on a flight to Philadelphia in like 2 hours. And then he landed, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the airport. And he's like, no, we're going right to the arena. So like he truly just got there and showed up and played. Had 14 points. So that's pretty cool, I think, for Oshae Brissett. But yeah, he's just a guy. They granted with a 10-day contract on a hardship exemption. And buddy, let me tell you, there's been some hardships this year.
Yep, a lot of hardships.
I don't know that Oshae Brissett's gonna solve the hardships, but it is a start.
You got a 2-week hardship exemption when you went to fucking Japan. It's ridiculous.
I need a few more, I think.
Yeah.
But he's just, good to see him there. He played for Nick Nurse before in Toronto. And Jalen Hood-Schifino, came out after his, it was freshman year after Indiana, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And got drafted by the Lakers. And he's, freshman, played 1 year at Indiana. Drafted 17th by the Lakers. 6'6", big-ish guard. Played at Montverde. Like, has the pedigree, but just never really got a chance with the Lakers. Was hurt. And then they, the other guys for the Lakers stepped up. Austin Reeves and whoever sort of took his spot as the kind of interesting young player.
Yeah.
And
he was that for a minute with the Lakers. I remember, because Lakers fans are loud in general. Yeah. And with those guys. Who was the guy before that? That they gave a sizable contract to and ended up somewhere else was I think he had 3 names too.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
I'm going to remember.
Let's see. Is it from recently?
Maybe
or
4 years ago?
Let's see. Who could he be talking about? Juan Toscano Anderson?
No.
Okay. I'm just going through and going for 3 name guys. Taylor Horton Tucker.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's the guy. He was that guy for a minute.
Yeah. He's on Chicago. He's also, sort of not that similar, but a big, thick guard out of a Midwest school. He played at Iowa State. But yeah, Indiana, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Cool that he played against Indiana in his first game, I think, maybe. Maybe a fun little element for him. But he's got a little smoothness to his game. He's the reason why he got drafted was because he had big guard skills and just had sort of like a knack for, at a young age, looking mature, but was not a great shooter at college, was not an overwhelming athlete. I think they kind of just drafted him because his name is cool and he looked cool. He looks cool on the court. So
he does have a cool name too.
Yeah. So we'll see. The kind of guy, he's on a 2-way here. It's the kind of guy that you want to take a chance on. It costs truly nothing, and maybe he finds something, figures it out. This is the kind of second draft type guy that you can get lucky with, and this is what you're supposed to do.
So an update on the.
I want to say I'm such a Jared Butler guy. Jared Butler looked great.
Oh, really? I've wanted to like him more than I have.
He's just so smooth, and and now that his shot's going a little bit more.
The shot looks a little funky though.
It's just that he's small. I think.
Okay.
I mean, he was 3 of 9 from 3 last night, but there were 2 or 3 shots that were end of shot clock hoists.
That's true.
So I'm giving him credit for that. I'm removing those from. Rich Hoffman's been on this for a while. The fact that there's not a heave category in threes that doesn't affect your percentage, because then
non-heave threes. You should be able to have a non-heave, and we would get more heaves.
You get more heaves, and you get more of the chuck it with 1.5 seconds remaining in the quarter.
Yeah,
chuck it from half court instead of guys pretending they just missed the clock too late, that kind of thing. So I agree with Rich on that, and I think they should institute that. It seems like an easy thing to do. But yeah, I just like Jared Butler. He's real small. He's real thin, more than small. He's 6'3", but plays really, really smart. And I would love to have him as the last guard, him over, Kyle Lowry at this point, and obviously Downton.
Yeah.
But he gets into the paint so easy. He's such a good passer. And there were passes that he made last night that just bounced off some guy's hands, and they were just so upset about it, because it's they don't expect it to get to him in that way. And I appreciate a professional like Jared Butler with a couple NBA skills, and you feel comfortable with the ball in his hands. So
is Kyle Lowry still alive?
Do you think Lowry plays another game this season?
No.
They should be looking into that.
Yeah.
Is what they should look into.
So speaking of looking into things, here is the tanking update. And we actually started with this question, and I think the answer is no. The answer is no for me. Writes to RickySanchez@gmail.com. Michael says, are you guys rooting as hard for the Sixers to lose as you would be rooting for the Sixers to win if we were trying to make a playoff push? And the answer is no. I'm not.
So the playoff push is an interesting framing there.
Well, let's just say it was for seeding. Let's say they're a good team, not to get to the 10 seed or whatever.
Of course.
Yeah, because you didn't want that at all. So are you rooting as hard for them to lose as you would for them to win in a good season?
In a given game, probably certainly not, even though I would say academically, the stakes of
losing
dropping to
harder.
the 5 seed are much higher than the stakes of in a playoff push trying to get from like the 5 to the 3 seed or something. Because you're gonna have to beat somebody anyway. So because they need to keep the pick so badly. So I would say I'm probably not rooting as hard for losses as I would be for wins in a season that mattered, but I probably should be.
Yeah,
would be my answer.
It's harder to do it, I think.
But let me say, I'm rooting for the Raptors real hard.
Yes,
I'm having a good time rooting for the Raptors.
They're doing it, by the way. They're doing it.
They've won 3 in a row. They're 6-10. They're like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised they're 4.5 games back of the Bulls. The Bulls have won 4 in a row. Otherwise, the Raptors would be like
around
right
the
there.
Heat.
Miami Heat has lost 6 in a row. They're 5.5 games. The Raptors 5.5 games behind the Heat. Getting them out of there. Get the Heat out the paint.
So
trading Jimmy Butler in a season like this.
So the Sixers, Paul George is now, quote, meeting with doctors to discuss what to do with his knee and groin injuries.
Good enough for me.
That is the he ain't playing. I mean, I think we all knew it, but that's the he ain't playing again sign.
You got to meet with doctors.
You have to. Just to find out what's going on.
What's going on? What are
have
new
you ever
advances in
probably
medicine?
never did it with any of those injuries. So the Sixers tied for the reverse 5 seed with the Brooklyn Nets as they passed Toronto, now a game and a half ahead of Toronto after last night's win, ahead behind. You know what I mean? But the Nets who were looking like they were going to win some games for a while there are now 1-9 in their last 10. So this is going to be down to the wire, man. It really is. It's going to be down to the wire.
That Nets Bulls game where the Nets just lost barely was kind of hard for me. You really need some of those. I think Toronto is pretty much well in hand because they still have the easiest strength schedule rest of the year. So I think odds are you're feeling good about Toronto even as they try to lose. They are at a place where like they really could make the playoffs. And that's kind of cool for, Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes. And when
who didn't play in the fourth quarter last night, by the way.
Yeah, they're really trying to be like, please rest, please sit. But I don't know. They should want to make the playoffs. Why not? What are you doing with this pick? It doesn't matter. But the Nets' upcoming schedule looks dicey, pretty rough. So
the NBA fined the Utah Jazz $100,000 for Lauri Markkanen missing too many games, the player participation policy.
Right out of Danny Ainge's pocket.
Yep. And here is Shams on the Pat McAfee show addressing the NBA's investigation into these things.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
I will say, going back to your question, though, AJ, the NBA is looking at a couple other teams. I'm told the Philadelphia 76ers are another team the NBA has started an investigation on and looked into, just based on you've had Tyrese Maxey miss time. We know Paul George has missed time, but I think with Philadelphia, it looks a little bit more legitimate, maybe, because you think about Tyrese Maxey, he's been banged up all year, and Paul George, he's been playing the 5 games before the All-Star break in February, guys. I'm told Paul George was playing with pain-killing injection. He had to get injected for essentially for pain-killing for 5 straight games just to play. With groin injuries, knee injury, a finger tendon injury, and so Paul George, I'm told he's going to visit with doctors in the coming days and potentially need a procedure, which obviously would then sideline him, likely for the rest of the season. So, and Joel Embiid's already shut down. We know how that went. So, they've looked into Philadelphia a little bit and seen, are they potentially, they're also in a position. They've got a top 6 protected pick that could go to Oklahoma City if they don't keep it. So this is something that the NBA is definitely keeping an eye on.
So I guess the way it works is the NBA investigates all these things all the time, but like this is so comical, man.
Detective tanking on the case.
It's so comical because it's like it's so obvious what is going on everywhere. Like you don't need to. I just did the investigation.
Yeah.
All these teams are trying to lose. If you really tell them to stop, and if you're not going to tell them to stop, then shut the fuck up and stop leaking news that you're investigating everyone. Yeah. And like, of course, the Sixers are going to be the top clickbait of any of these teams because of our history. But like, there's no investigation needed. It's obvious.
Well, here's why I disagree, because I'm going to pitch a show about an investigator, a detective who does this, who specializes in this kind of thing.
Right. Yes.
Where you just go into city after city, looking around, sticking his nose into the place and say, "Are you trying to lose on purpose?" And he's get wafts of loser. Hang on a second. Let me go to the lab and run some tests.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. Yeah, it's very funny to be investigating a thing that everyone can see is happening. Just yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, it's the fucking think you should leave. Like,
yeah, we're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Yeah. It's like, come on, man. Shut up.
I guess the actual way to stop tanking would be if there was no weight to the lottery. If every team from 1 to 14 had the same chance.
But then, yes, I think so. Or the other idea I had was after the trade deadline, certain teams are designated or something. If you win the game, you get to choose whether you get a win or a loss.
Yeah, that seems crazy.
It's kind of fun though.
Like what is the like? And now we go to Nick Nurse on the sideline.
Yeah.
Does he want the win or does he want the loss? Like what does that mean?
Well, I think there is somebody emailed us. Maybe it's a women's hockey league or something where they have a point system essentially, and like the wins count for more points toward the lottery. Like essentially, like so like you get 0 points for a loss, you get 2 points for a win, and the more points you accumulate, the more lottery balls that you get. Which would, it would fix it. It's a little complicated because then, like, I don't know what happens when the Celtics are resting guys against a losing team or whatever. But I think you could do it in either of those ways by completely randomizing the lottery or by having wins count more than losses toward the lottery, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's still the same thing we talked about last week, which is the players don't care about the lottery.
That's what I'm saying. If you just play and they play to win, then they're just playing to win. Like that's it. You know, that the problem is ultimately
then it becomes the team going at that point, because right now the players and organizations are kind of aligned. Hey, the season's over. There are some guys that are going to like dog it and some guys that are going to play really hard because that's what they do, because they just have a level. They're playing for their own careers and just because like it's fun to play basketball and they have a motor that they kind of can't turn off. And then if you're hurt, it's like, hey, yeah, don't play if you're hurt. We're not going to push you. Then it becomes, okay, we get more lottery points
by losing.
If by winning.
Oh, by winning, yes.
And then it's like, if you're looking at Maxey or Paul George or whoever and going like, you should play, like we need the win. And then it's like, okay, so you only care about it because of the lottery? Like that's why you're forcing me into this?
Well, I think the bigger issue, and this is where your solution comes in, where it's completely randomized, is like it does suck for the fan bases of 7 teams to have their teams like actively resting healthy people for games that people pay. Like it's just, it sucks. It doesn't happen in any other sport. It's dumb. And it's like sort of embarrassing. So all that said, like I'm not morally outraged about it, but like it is a horrible look. You know what I mean? It happens
in other sports though.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It kind of does.
It truly doesn't. Maybe in a football game, in a final football game, maybe it'll happen. It doesn't happen in baseball. I don't know if it happens in hockey, and I know you don't either.
Baseball has other like losing, spending money problems of like the White Sox or the A's or whatever, the Marlins.
Sure,
like,
but
you're
I mean,
not trying to win.
Yes, but that's certainly different than what's happening in the NBA. The NBA is the only one that has this problem.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, it doesn't suck to be a fan of this team right now. Yeah. Because you can't. I think it's like you shouldn't be paying. If the Sixers want to be this bad, then they should eat the cost of being this bad. That's where you can hurt them, is just by not going to games. Like you shouldn't be going to games.
Sucks if you bought a ticket 3 months ago. To see Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and the fucking championship contending Sixers.
Well, 3 months ago, you should have known that they were going to be
4 months.
Bad
4 months. 4 months.
Okay, well, 4 months. I guess they started 3-14, so you still probably should have known.
Wow.
But if you bought a ticket to a game 4 months ago,
I don't know that 14 game plan. I just think it sucks. I think
they should. I think they should. Offer some money.
Get a credit.
You should be able to go. Like, hey, exchange your ticket for one next season or something.
Yeah.
When we're not 22-44.
Yeah, that would be a nice gesture.
I like a gesture. I'm fine with that.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. I actually think my wife was reaching out to Big Barker to see if I get an XL Big Barker when I'm sleeping in that kennel that night, because I don't want to sleep on the fucking kennel floor. I have to be honest with you.
Wow.
God bless the dogs, but I need something to sleep on. In any case, Big Barker is the only bed that your dog should be sleeping on. It's the only beds, except for our bed occasionally, that Scotchy and Rebel sleep on. And I say that because the Big Barker keeps your dog healthier, keeps your dog happier. If you go to bigbarker.com and you use code FREEPATCHES, you get the free Process Pup patches. You get 2 of them. You get a black and white one, red, white, and blue one. You can iron them on. Very easy. Onto the Big Barker. Send us a photo of your dog on the Big Barker. We love that. Process Pup officially. Get a bunch of stickers too. But that stuff is nice. Nice bonus. The core thing is that your dog sleeps a lot of hours, and if you were sleeping on a bad mattress, you would feel it. It's the one thing I hate about Airbnbs or whatever. You're always like, you stay there. I'm always flipping a coin whether the mattress is going to be any good. And even one night on a bad mattress, my back hurts, my hip hurts, all that kind of shit. Same thing with your dogs, especially as they get older. They need to be sleeping on a supportive mattress too. And Big Barker is the only dog bed engineered by experts to support your dog's joints. So as your dog gets older, suffers from arthritis just like we do, those sort of things are staved off. Like there's less of an effect. If your dog is younger, the longer you can get your dog to sleep on a Big Barker, the better it is for their health, especially big dogs. Dogs over 50 pounds, up to 80% of them develop arthritis as they age. So, and I know it's Big Barker or whatever, but there's Barker Jr. There's the XL one that a human could sleep on. They come in all different colors. They look nice. Our Big Barkers look nice in our bedroom, and they are well made to keep your dog, again, healthier. There's a 10-year warranty. The foam won't flatten or they'll replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if your dog doesn't like it, you will get a full refund, and they'll even pay for the shipping. It's handmade in the USA. Big Barker Dog Beds. Here's an interesting question that I think we probably have the same reaction to. This came from Sheil, writes RickySanchez@gmail.com. Do you think Morey is setting Nurse up to be a fall guy? Most tanking teams have the coach and front office on the same page when tanking, which is why coaches feel comfortable in their job security when they empty the bench in the fourth quarter versus leaving the starters in and going for the win. The Sixers are very clearly in tank mode, yet Nurse is one of the few coaches on a tanking team who leaves his best lineup at the end of the game and hopes is winning. This was a week ago. Players always want to win and play well, but coaches and GMs do whatever it takes for job security. Is Morey telling Nurse to try to win, knowing that the Sixers are not going anywhere, just so at the end of the season, Morey can say Nurse just didn't win enough? For the record, I don't think Morey did a good job in the offseason prior to the season. I think he did a great job. Even the Embiid contract is something I didn't bat an eye at. And non-basketball question, if you could have any animal as a personal companion or pet without any risk to yourself or others, as it would be completely trained to obey you, what animal would you choose? I don't think Daryl is looking for Nurse to be a fall guy, and I think Morey's prime objective would be to keep Nick Nurse. I don't think he wants to fire Nick Nurse.
That seems to be the signals that they're sending out. I think, to me, the sitting guys for ends of games that have been playing in the game.
Yes.
I have not really seen before, at least I don't remember seeing.
The Toronto thing last night was outrageous.
Well, Toronto's been doing that for weeks now.
Oh, they
This
have. I
this
haven't
has
noticed
been,
that. Okay.
They are, yes, it's pretty stunning. And they keep winning games despite it. You know, you're going to play Jamal Shed. You're going to get Jamal Shed winner mentality out there. So maybe they're making a mistake. You should be playing RJ Barrett if you want to lose. But I don't think that. I think that's a worse look to me of like, we have good players. We are just not, and they're playing in this game so we don't get in trouble, but they're not playing the important minutes. We're hoping that one of these young guys loses. So that seems fucked up. But no, I don't think. I think when Nick Nurse is out there, and I think when any coach is out there, they're coaching to win. I think.
Well, and I don't think
strategy kind of goes out the window across the board.
Yes. And I don't think, now whether Nick Nurse gets fired or not, I don't know, but I do not think Morey is setting Nurse up to be a fall guy.
No.
I don't think it's his personality, by the way, but I also think that this is the first coach he hired, remember, for the Sixers. He didn't hire Doc Rivers. And I think if we were to ask him when he one day stops hiding from us and comes on the podcast, I think he would say that, I don't think he would say that Nick Nurse did a great job this year, but I also think he would point to the mitigating circumstances that created this more so than Nick Nurse not being a good coach. That would be my gut on Nick Nurse.
Yeah, I think if Daryl's back, then Nurse is back. It
seems
that way. I think there's a chance that ownership, once the dust settles, and especially if I can see ownership being short, maybe, I don't know if this is short-sighted or
reactionary.
Reactionary or like result based enough that if they don't get this pick, I could see ownership firing Daryl. And if they do get the pick, then I could see them holding on for another year or two. I don't know. But the fact is, I agree. For the most part, I also love the offseason. And a lot of guys that they got in the offseason, and then you could add Quentin Grimes during the season. But like McCain, great pick. Idembona, solid pick in the second. Justin Edwards, solid undrafted free agent pickup. Oubre resigns, was great. Grimes, obviously. The old guys that he got were bad, and he should be, blamed for that. Whether it's Drummond, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, but Maxey, PG, and Embiid didn't play well enough. They just didn't. Like none of them. Maxey first. A stretch was fine and kind of righted the ship, and now he's injured and whatever. But for the 3 and 14 stretch, Maxey was really bad. And yeah, PG couldn't get healthy, and then he was also not hitting shots, and shot selection was bad, and then Joel's just Joel. So I think it just boils down to also Yabusele, I didn't mention, is another great pickup.
Yep.
And it just boils down to like it enforces Daryl's theory about the league. I think I might have said this or alluded to it last year, but like the stars are what matter for your team. And our stars this season, that maybe Daryl didn't have to extend Embiid, but I think because he helped recruit PG, and I think PG only signed here because of Embiid practically, so you had to sort of solidify to him that he was going to be here, all that stuff. It all kind of worked hand in hand, and none of it worked this season, which he could be blamed by. But as I've said all season, like those are the moves that I wanted him to do, and it just really didn't work out.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like, well, fuck. Now they're stuck with it.
Well, by the way, sometimes you get fired for making the right move, and
they can't fire us though.
No, you cannot. I bet they wish they fucking could. I bet they wish they fucking could.
Certainly some regimes did.
Yeah. I think sometimes, it is like, I brought up blackjack, but like you can make the right move in blackjack. Oftentimes you do, and you still lose, and you can go broke doing that, making the right move. So you can get fired just because you made the what might have been the best decision you could have made, and it didn't work out, and you still get fired. That's just how that's how it works in sports, So there you go. And the non-basketball question: if you could have any animal as a personal companion without any risk to yourself as others, as it would be completely trained to obey you, what animal would you choose?
Risk to yourself or others. Does that also mean like weird bug disease stuff.
Yeah. All that's gone. It's
knew that.
clean. Yeah. You want one of those little monkeys from
I
Japan?
kind of want one of those little monkeys a
Yeah.
little bit. I was thinking one of the little monkeys. That was pretty dope, to be honest.
I could see that coming from you.
Yeah, I was just like, they did seem like very, very fun. If there's no risk,
Yep.
then little monkey hanging around, running
It's
around.
a little
the
too
place.
much like a person, though. To me, little monkey. Like
Yeah.
I would love. Sometimes I'm watching on TikTok or whatever, and I see like these, like guys are like friends with big scary lions, and they're like,
bad.
"Fuck it." But it would be pretty cool, like in Hangover or whatever, with Mike Tyson with the tiger, to have like a fucking lion just completely trained,
To do what?
just hang out or whatever. I mean, what's your monkey gonna do? Play cards? Like I'd rather
Yeah,
have a
well,
person
yes,
to play cards.
I think play cards. I think like do cool tricks, but lion is just really like attack is really sort of the idea.
Or hang out. It's completely trained. Like it
but if
could
he's
be
hanging out, then it doesn't
no different than a dog.
doesn't
But
it
it's-
lose how cool he would be.
Well, but since he's trained, if you want him to attack, he could also do that.
You said no danger to himself or others.
Unless, well, but he's completely trained.
Okay, so you want a weapon, is what you're saying.
I'm just thinking out loud on this
You
one.
want a loaded gun. that you
No,
can
I'm
go
just
to
again,
anywhere.
I'm just thinking out loud on this one.
All right, well, me and my monkey are gonna have a great time, and you and your docile lion can just sit there.
I just want my fucking dogs, to be quite honest with you, but I wanted to find out a more creative answer.
Yeah.
So,
Whale?
Mike, a whale? Where are you going to keep the whale?
You don't know what I got. I can figure out a way to keep this whale.
Do you have a giant tank somewhere? Do you own SeaWorld? Like, what do you mean? I don't know what you got.
Quick drive away. You can see it. Figure it out. Make something.
I know
work.
how expensive land is in Southern California. You don't fucking. We're not paying
Maybe
you
I
that
think
much.
the idea is like maybe I got a whale that doesn't need to be in the water.
Oh,
Not a danger to himself or others. Can figure something out.
any other animals? CJ, you have any thoughts on this one?
Get in.
Yeah, I was thinking like, I don't know exactly the monkey species, but the flying monkeys that can like go around and like, if I like wanted my water bottle from the other room, it'd be
Yeah.
cool to him like fly up and then fly back and then
That'd be fun.
do little tasks like
Yeah,
that.
like the Wizard of Oz monkey.
So you want to enslave the monkey?
No, like more like a
I mean,
personal
you want the
assistant,
monkey to be your fucking butler, I guess.
Monkey
yeah,
Butler.
no,
That's a show.
He'll have a bunch of perks and like he'll be paid fairly
Okay.
and like treats and stuff.
Fair
that
wages.
He likes. Yeah,
Fair
of
wages.
course.
Yeah.
Fair wage for the monkeys.
Unionized treat system.
Yeah. Oh my God. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Kornblau Kornblau, the official law firm of Process. Look, if you go to over somebody's house and they have a poorly trained fucking wild animal in there, the animal attacks you, you're going to be able to sue that person. And Kornblau specializes in those sorts of things. Maybe not wild animal attacks, but personal injury. You want someone who is fucking, here are the checkoffs, Kornblau. You want somebody who's actually really good at doing what they do. Kornblau. There. You want somebody who is going to communicate with you like a human, update you, give you the, not make it seem like it's a chore to keep you updated on what's going on. Kornblau. You want somebody versatile who could do medical malpractice, injured at work, a car accident, slip and fall, Kornblau. And here's the most important thing, is that when you reach out to a personal injury law firm, you want to be able to get in touch with the person that you hear the advertisement for. Mm-hmm. And I know it sounds crazy that it doesn't happen with a lot of them, but it doesn't. Most of those, you know that line, well, I can't practice law in your state, but blah, 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 blah. Well, then what are you reaching out for? They just want fucking referrals. But Kornblau wants to help you. So when you reach out at 215-576-7200 and ask for Adam, when you reach out by sending an email to Kornblau at kornblau.com, you're going to get Adam. You're going to get a Kornblau. We actually have a new Ricky sponsor coming on board probably in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And that sponsor, the guy from the place, Blair, said, I actually reached out to Kornblau several years ago to help me with my landlord or whatever, and he helped out.
Look at that.
Look at that. This is fucking, karma. Good karma for everyone. So if any of these things are you, if you've been hurt and it is not your fault and you think it's somebody else is, you got to reach out. 215-576-7200, ask for Adam, or email Kornblau at Kornblau and Kornblau.com, Kornblau. That's how you spell that. Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. So Mike missed when we played the other clip from this, where Daryl said he couldn't. You would have melted down, actually. Where Daryl said that he was confused that people were more angry about the Celtics series than the Knicks series.
Oh, that was from also this Pablo thing?
Yes. It was at Sloan.
I started listening to this podcast and I had to turn it off. I love Pablo. I love this podcast. A lot of great episodes. Pablo Torre finds out. But this one aggravated me to a point that I did have to turn it off in sort of a fit of rage.
Well, I went for, at Poirier, you sat there, it was for 15 minutes. I went off about this 15-minute clip about, like, he genuinely, and I have a great respect for Daryl, what he does, and the fact that he has come on this podcast a number of times and let us fire arrows at him. But he just does not understand the fan experience, I don't think, at all. No. He just doesn't understand it. To be perplexed about, anyway, and to say that we're motivated.
The part of his brain that is a person is a little bit lacking.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah. So and to say that, to not understand the difference between being motivated by anger and being angry is like, we're not motivated by anger. We want to be happy. Anger takes so much work. Anyway.
Sometimes I am.
Well, sometimes. So this, and I know we're going to disagree on this one, but this is the clip that enraged everyone this week. And by the way, this other guy who was on, I'm sorry I don't have his name in front of me. He actually is the smartest of the three of them, no offense to Daryl or Pablo, based on what he does, and actually seemed the most in touch with fan emotions out of anyone, seemed to actually get it. That guy is always invited on the Ricky. He is a Sixers fan, apparently was lurking.
Let me talk to a genius. He's a Sixers fan?
Yes, and was apparently lurking on Sixers message boards in the early 2000s.
All right, get on here.
Yes, like he understood what Daryl didn't understand. But here is the thing that made everyone mad this week from this particular interview from Sloan, from Pablo Finds Out.
When you're making a decision, and insert your favorite Sixers decision here, are you asking an LLM for their input?
So we two answers there. We absolutely use models as a vote in any decision, and how much of that decision depends on, how much the assumptions behind those models don't change, and their past success rate. So if you have a highly successful model for picking draft picks, and we think that the game, Evan hasn't changed the rules yet, and so the game isn't changed.
Evan Wash, who's in charge of the league office,
thank you,
of defeating you.
Yes. Then the models get a lot of weight in those decisions. It turns out LLMs do fairly well at prediction. They still are not beating human, like super forecasters they're called, like in Human Judgment Project talks about it. But they do add signal over just scouts and things like that. So we'll treat them almost like one scout. Now over time, if it's shown that they have a better track record than scouts, we might weight the LLMs or use multiple LLMs as one or two votes out of the process. So it turns out I'm building on a lot of things that Sentil knows, and that multi-model approaches can put you more on the decision frontier, the optimal decision frontier. And when I say that carefully, you get very similar accuracy with lower risk by using multi-model approaches. And so that's why we do that.
I would just like NBA Central to aggregate what Daryl just said, which is that he asks ChatGPT for help on trades.
Yeah, please not aggregate.
I'm just trying to pay for my kids' tuition, Daryl.
So just for anyone who is not sort of up on it, LLM is a large language model. ChatGPT is that. Claude is that. Gemini is that. Grok is that. I actually think anyone who is not using these things at this point is like going to lose. Like it would almost be like not using the internet when the internet started, and you're like, I'd rather go to the library. It's like, I understand the general inclination to not want these things to advance, but they always move forward and you can never stop them. So the people who use them are usually not use them in lieu of decision making, but in addition to their decision making, are usually far ahead. So I used it to help price my house. I use it for research when I'm doing the show. So I understand the rage, like when you see the fucking tweet that Daryl uses AI for decisions or whatever. But
I love it.
It would be.
It's the perfect thing for him to say this year. Look, you like the AI stuff. I think it sucks. I think it's bad for the environment and bad for the world.
Bad for the environment. Is that just something that you read, or is it something that you actually think? Like, why is it bad for the environment?
How could I think it without having read it, though?
Well, how is it bad for the environment?
That it uses more like water in like. I'm not like equipped to talk about it, but I've seen people say that. I'm not. Look, I'm not saying I'm not testing the water of how much it takes to like run an AI search.
Right.
But like the thing that you see that it's like somebody sent me some of that thinks that the same AI system thinks James Harden's still in the Sixers. Like it's worse than Google in like 2011.
Well, it's not. It's not. I mean,
whatever. We're not. This is not going to be something that we agree with, and it's not worth getting into.
Well,
but
I guess what I would say
just
is
as valuable to search like Zodiac GM and see what like the astrology signs of a player is.
But it's not. But it's not.
No, I say as far as like, there's models that teams have and have had for decades of like, is this thing going to work? And it wasn't. And of like, how does this player project out? Like, this kind of player? We have a database, whatever, blah blah blah. That was not qualified as AI. It was like people have had systems and using stuff, but the idea that it's AI is just like you have a fucking whole scouting team and a numbers guys that you like.
You go to the doctor.
I'm sure what it is like not that different from what people have been doing, and they're just putting it into a different system. I think it's funny that Daryl said it in a season that they are 22 and 44.
Well, that part is for sure.
And if you are trying to sabotage AI, which I would love to do, then this is what you would say if you're Daryl saying that helped with the Sixers. So good job on that, Daryl.
Yeah, the timing of it, of course. He should have skipped Sloan this year. I think might have been a
why is he there?
Might have been a good thing. You know, overall, I just find, again, like with the internet, like I could make the argument that our lives would have been better without the internet. Like for sure. Could make the argument that life would be better without social media, all those sorts of things. However, they are here. So you can either, from a reality perspective, you can either like use these things for what they're good at to help you do what you do, or you can not and get beat. Like the people who put their full, hey, I'm not even going to make the decision. I'm not even going to write the paper. I'm going to do this. Those are dumb people, but those people have always existed, right? Like when I was in high school, you could get Cliff's Notes instead of reading the book. You could take what somebody else wrote and wrote it down. You could, what's that called when you steal somebody else's work? What's that called?
Cheating?
Yeah, it's cheating, but there's a word for it.
Plagiarism.
Plagiarize, blah, 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 blah. So I think overall that if you're a GM and you're not doing it, you're probably going to get beat out by a smart GM who is doing it. But a dumb GM who uses
27 GMs in the league this year. So
what's that
for Daryl? That's 26.
Yes, well, that is a fair point. That is all fair points. All fair points. What's next? Curious your thoughts on this now as we get closer to the lottery and lottery party. Your draft stuff, like your brain is, it's going to be the happy Mike hour of talking about prospects.
Yeah.
But Dan Olinger did an article at rightsrickysanchez.com. And by the way, didn't expect Dan to be able to lean into his real roots this year, which is drafting and scouting and prospect hunting, but thank God we have Olinger. So he wrote an article about the 4 centers the Sixers could look at in the draft. I'm curious just for your like quick thoughts on all of them. And you're gonna have to help me with the first guy. Is it Common Malak?
Malawach.
So Common Malawach, Derek Queen, Asen Newell, and Alex Condon.
So yeah, Condon is sort of like his little pet prospect. That's not like in order.
Okay.
Like Malawach, Queen, and Newell are like the top 3 pretty much seen as across the board center prospects. And then Condon is sort of like a second round flyer. But there's other guys that I like also. Thomas Sorber on Georgetown is a really interesting player. Danny Wolf on Michigan is interesting in a different way. He's kind of like a 7-foot point guard, transferred from Yale, and he has a really like impressive amount of ball skills for a guy that big. He's running pick and roll with Vlad Golden, who is the other center on Michigan. Limited athletically and not a great defender, but as a backup center could be something that's interesting. Danny Wolf in the second round. Some people have him in the first. Malowacz, we talked about him last spot. He's just like classic rim running center, blocking shots. He only started playing basketball pretty recently. And he has nice touch and like is a pretty impressive.
He's a top 10 kind of guy. This guy.
Yeah. He's like, his growth is projected very high. He's 7'2", 250. He's a Duke. He's helped them become the best team in the country. You can get excited thinking about, well, if he's playing this well after only a couple years of basketball, sort of like Joel. No one's saying that he's going to be Joel, but like a guy that is good now and projects forward and is still 18. You get excited about that. Already playing high level basketball, and I like Derek Queen a lot on Maryland. It's a fun Maryland team. Their nickname, I think you will like this. Obviously, Michigan in the early 90s was the Fab Five. Maryland's team, which has 5 really good starters and almost no bench whatsoever, is nicknamed the Crab Five.
Because of Maryland.
So that's pretty nice.
I like that.
And a fun team to track in the tournament. And Queen is the sort of the best player on the team. A little bit old for a freshman. He's already like a year and a half older than Malowacz, but played on that Cooper Flag, Liam McNeely, Montverde team that Asa Newell was also on. And he's just a really heady player. I talked about him last week. Doesn't have much of a jumper yet, but shoots pretty well from the line. Is just a really heady player. Seems like a good kid. Everyone talks about how good of a kid he is, and plays really smart basketball. Would be a fun, interesting player to be like, where does this go from here if you develop a jump shot? And Newell's just so solid at everything. I don't really see a ton of upside in Newell, but as like
is he a top 10 guy as well?
I've seen him in like the mid to late lottery. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's lefty. I think he's like completely like solid across the board. I don't yet see, and Georgia's not going to make the tournament. Probably not. Maybe they will. I don't yet see the like wild upside of a guy that you'd really want in a top 6 pick. But as far as like plays he's shoots more than any of those other guys. So you could sort of see him as like a guy who can play the 4 and also switch up to the 5 when you need him to. There's also a guy on a power forward on St. Joe's. St. Joe's, by the way, playing today for the A10.
Oh yeah, somebody called the station and mentioned him.
Rasheer Fleming.
Yes, yeah.
More small ball 5, probably more closer to like a 3-4 type thing. He's interesting. You kind of look at him and go like, could that be like Rashard Lewis in kind of a way? I've been wanting Rashard Lewis types for a while now, so I'm always squinting and seeing Rashard Lewis. And he's an interesting player, long, athletic, gets his hands in there, ton of deflections. And they're playing in championship today. If you're going to watch that game, you should. Sorber kind of came out of nowhere a little bit more playing on Georgetown, and he's also like sort of similar to Queen. Good defense, moves the ball well, smart player, like the ball doesn't stick in his hands. I like a decision maker that's that big. Like if you're a good, obviously, Jokic is like the best version of this, or like what's his name on Houston. But like if you're a decision maker at that size, that's just such a gift to your offense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
To be able to move the ball and like get doubled and then find open shooters or cutters or anything. I think it's just it's an underrated get. Obviously the elite ones, but even just like a solid player, even like a Plumlee or something that can make a pass. B-ball Paul, like that can make a pass, make a play from that size. That's not just like so stiff and just like I only do this one thing. Obviously that can take you to dangerous places if they start to do too much. But when they're smart about it, I think it's a good gift. I also really like guy who's been on Creighton for a while, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Huge, like 7'2", shot blocker, rim protector, and a good shooter, and has been there, has proved it for a while. So probably less upside. He's already 23, I think. But as a second round guy, I think perfect world, the Sixers would want to not have to take a center in the top 10. I think they would want to believe that Joel is the guy. I also don't know how Joel would respond to them taking a straight up center. Like if they took Malawach, who's from South Sudan,
right,
who's a freshman who doesn't do anything aside from be a center, then that indicates that is the center of the future. And what does that say to Joel? I think that unless it's far and away, this is the guy. Like if you draft Queen or Newell, like you could probably convince Joel that he could play the 4 or whatever. But Malawach especially, who is right now seen as the best prospect of them because of how big he is, it would be like a, hey, Joel, we are drafting your replacement because we don't believe that you can stay healthy. I mean, maybe they shouldn't care what that means because of how bad the season went for him. But it's something they'll probably consider.
It was something that I thought of when Dan wrote this article and I was reading it. I was thinking like, well, here's the other thing is that if they do some sort of long-term Embiid has to get better thing where he doesn't return until March of next year at the best, they still need somebody to play center next year. Right? Like, that's the other like sort of weird, I suppose you could trade somebody or whatever, but assuming you're not trying to lose next year and you at least want these players to grow and figure out the backcourt and yada, 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 you need somebody to play center. So I don't think they can worry. I think they have to, if they're drafting, if they get their pick, they have to take the best player, whoever it is. If it ends up being a center, like, and Embiid's great, but this guy's still playing 30 games a year and is still probably the starting center in 3 years anyway. Even in even a good scenario, he's probably the starting center in 3 years, or you trade him. So I know it's just like the time for Joel Embiid being sensitive about that shit is out the window to me. But
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something that they'll consider because I think they're still very conscious of his feelings and what the upside of this team would be like if he comes back healthy or healthy-ish. I think it is. I would be hopeful, even if Joel is still hurt next season for whatever large percentage of it is. I would be hopeful that this team could be better than they were this year.
Yeah.
Even if Joel's not there.
Yeah.
They should be able to be, if you they take Joel away, if say they bring back Grimes and say everything works out, Grimes, Yabusele, Oubre all stay, which is going to be hard to do. But say that those work out and even you don't get the pick, but you get a pick 37, you get a couple other guys in rotation, Bona's second year, Justin Edwards, first full season rotation player, whatever. Like that team should be around 500. If Maxey and PG are there and Quentin Grimes is this guy, like that team should be like close-ish to 500, maybe a couple games under, fine. And
look
then
at the teams that are about 500 this year. I mean, like I agree with you.
Yeah. So the hope is that it doesn't have to be so binary that they could be around 500. And then if Joel does come back, say in this random scenario, March, and he looks, playable, at least better than he looked this year, then that team goes in the playoffs and you go like, all right, let's see it. So I don't know what that means. Like if Drummond picks up his option, and you have to trade something to get off of him, it would be a bummer. If they have to trade 36 to get off of Drummond, I'm going to be so upset. I'm going to be so upset if that happened.
It's likely to happen, by the way.
I really, really cannot stomach that. Maybe they could trade a future second, but they really need that second this year, especially if 6 doesn't convey. But yeah, I also wouldn't. I don't know if Yabusele resigns, and then you go, oh, okay, then we have Yabusele and Bona. Is it the best resource to draft a center in the draft? I'm not sure. I also don't think that they can be. This season went badly enough that they really just have to draft the player that they think is going to be the best player.
The best player available. Just like the old days.
Yeah. Aside from a small guard, which there really isn't in this draft, that's the only thing I wouldn't draft is a small guard at that size, at that point in the draft with McCain and Maxey already here. So I would just draft the player that you think is best, which there's a lot of good ones. And you might think that Malawach is that or Derek Queen, and you can think like, We look at the free throw form and some of the other. We expect that he'll be able to step back and hit threes. Then you can go, okay, great, that's interesting. I'm in. But if you're looking at who's the best player in the draft and you just go like, oh, I think Trey Johnson or I think Ace Bailey is the best player, or VJ Edcombe or whatever, like I'm taking that guy.
Yeah, I think they have to be in. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Best player available unless it's a small guard. Oh, or unless you think that small guard is better than one of our 2 small guards and trade one of our 2 small guards for other draft picks. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we have? This is the point. What do we have coming up? We have a pretty difficult schedule coming up, mostly.
Yes.
Not at the Mavs. So at the Mavs on Sunday.
Mavs.
But
this is Mavs get back game. I'm actually happy to be that it's
okay.
the Mavs. Like they need it.
Then at the Rockets, at the Thunder, then at the Spurs, who are also tanking, at the Hawks, Pelicans. I don't know. Okay, so 6 games.
Pelicans are starting to look okay.
So Mavericks, Rockets, Thunder. You think we need at least to go 2-4 there?
100%.
Yeah.
I think they very capably can go 0-6. I think they're losing to the Mavs tomorrow, they're losing to the Rockets, losing to the Thunder. And then it becomes
Spurs, Hawks, Pelicans.
Spurs, Hawks, Pelicans, but Hawks, Pelicans is back-to-back.
Okay.
So I'm confident they can win only 1 of 3 of those games, I believe. So
Okay.
I'd say 1-5, and even that is dangerous, especially because you got Sixers Wizards a couple days later than that. But the Wizards won a game the other day, looking okay. Wizards and Jazz have now tied for the worst
Top
record.
spot.
So that's interesting. And but Brooklyn's got Boston tonight, and I believe in Brooklyn surprising the Celtics.
There you go.
I believe in it.
All right.
Why not?
We can do it.
We can. Brooklyn.
We can.
The Brooklyn
All right.
Knight. We love him.
Totally normal mascot.
Normal mascot.
Yep. Their mascot should be a net. Should just be a net. Should just be a net
big
walking
net.
around.
And he's constantly getting caught in the net.
Yep. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. You know, like this.